What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and if you're enjoying the content that I'm uploading onto my channel, then feel free to subscribe, and you can also offer suggestions on topics and characters and storylines and whatnot that we can have discussions on later on in this channel. So I was sitting here thinking, I was like, we finally get to cover the story where the son of Hulk, Skaar, fights Wolverine and the son of Wolverine and Juggernaut. It's going to be amazing. And then I started getting into it and I was like, wait a minute now. Now, wait a minute. We missed something. We missed that right turn at Albuquerque, I think is how it goes. We zigged when we should have zagged. And as I was going through, I was like, what did I miss? Because I was trying to figure out what I missed, because there was a story that correlated. There was a story that linked the first volume of Skaar, Son of Hulk to basically the rejump, or I guess the reintroduction of the Incredible Hulk series that featured Bruce Banner. And then I realized we never covered the story where Skaar fought his dad. We never covered the story where Skaar fought Hulk. And so we're gonna cover that here. We're gonna pick up with this. Now, something to keep in mind for a lot of you guys who are just now joining in with my run on the Incredible Hulk. In the playlist down in the description, I have it done in chronological order. And so this story actually comes before the last video where Spider-Man fights Red Hulk. Chronologically, it comes before that. So in the playlist, it'll be before that. But if you guys ever find yourself overwhelmed, if you find yourself a bit confused by what's going on, maybe a little bit lost in the whole run of everything that's happening, that playlist will give you all the videos in chronological order so you can get caught up and you can make sure that you're aware of what's going on as we progress through these videos. Having said that, at the end of the first run of Skaar, Son of Hulk, it basically saw him being teleported to the planet Earth. And we didn't really know exactly what had happened there. All we knew was that the Incredible Hulk seemed to become aware of his son's presence. At the same time, this actually takes place during the events of Dark Reign. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, Dark Reign was the post-Secret Invasion / Civil War event, and essentially saw Tony Stark being removed as Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and replaced with Norman Osborn. Now, the reason for this was because of the fact that Secret Invasion basically established that the Skrulls had taken over a huge majority of Earth. And because of the fact that Tony Stark and S.H.I.E.L.D. were not aware of this, it was a demonstration, at least as far as the government saw, that Tony Stark was effectively inept as the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. And so they cast him out. Norman Osborn kind of wiggled his way in. And then, of course, he launched Hammer and basically turned S.H.I.E.L.D. into this dictatorial group. That is to say, he was basically using the law to effectively put himself in absolute power. Now, the funny thing about this was that he had his own team. He had like Dark Avengers, he had the Dark X-Men, and there's a whole different series of stories based on that, because Dark Reign, unlike traditional crossovers, doesn't have a main line of stories itself so much as it has a series of just small stories that make up the greater whole, if that makes any sense. But what this did is it gave us a chance to see different characters like Kate Waynesboro, as well as the return of the Warbound. Now, the Warbound didn't just vanish off the face of the earth, right? You know, I mean, after World War Hulk, we had an event called After Smash, which showed different things. I don't think it was a really important thing, but what it did give us is Kate Waynesboro, who basically absorbed the powers of Heroine. And what had happened was she had been caught up in a campaign involving a villain named the Leader, but the idea was that Heroine had effectively been killed, and his ability to use the old power, which is to say, to basically manipulate the tectonic plates of any given planet that he's on, was passed on to Kate Waynesboro, and it was a chance to take her character, who had been a background character in the Incredible Hulk mythos as part of S.H.I.E.L.D. and so on and so forth, and elevate her to the forefront. But with the arrival of Skaar being here, the idea was to basically, I guess on behalf of Norman Osborn, was to effectively go through and try to find out Skaar, learn more about him, you know, learn what he's about, try to find a way to, at the very least, take him and rally him to his cause, just because of the fact that Norman Osborn recognized that if there was an equivalent of the Incredible Hulk fighting on his side, it would make him absolutely powerful in terms of his ability to quash threats, different things like that. But much like Bruce Banner, Skaar kind of has this idea of being left alone to a degree, but we're actually going to learn he's really a man on a mission here. But what this does is it picks up with him, you know, speaking with a couple of kids. Now, these kids aren't wildly important so far in that they basically show us how it is that Skaar views the world. And what I mean here is that these kids are kind of talking with him, you know, they're teasing him a little bit, but there seems to be some respect for them. Not only that, it seems that, you know, Skaar is going to go about killing people, or at the very least trying to achieve a goal. From there, it actually jumps back a bit, and it kind of gets us, you know, caught up on its history in the sense that he had basically been given the opportunity to save his people when it was deemed that Galactus was going to consume Skaar, and in his vengeance and his hatred, as well as his hubris, he believed he could take on Galactus using the old power power, he was proven to be wrong, and the result was that he was effectively cast out by the spiritual essence of his mother and sent to Earth. And the result of this is that once he arrives, when he's talking to these kids, of course, one of them basically falls off the cliff. Now, the young girl runs off, she runs into cops, she tells the cops, hey, look, I need help. But what this is doing is it's basically creating a scenario whereby Skaar cannot trust humanity. Because remember, when he first got here, he was a guy who was immersed in hatred. He was a guy who was immersed in rage, but it wasn't like he viewed humanity as intrinsically distrustful. It wasn't like humanity was inherently bad. Instead, it was literally him just kind of learning about humans as he encountered them. The problem with this is one of his first encounters is a misunderstanding where he had tried to save the boy and the boy had effectively suffered some major injuries. Instead, the police believe that Skaar was the reason why this kid almost died. And so they immediately take him into custody. Because of this, Skaar basically develops a hatred for humanity and in doing so turns on these cops. Now, of course, this is when the Incredible Hulk first becomes aware of his existence, becomes aware of the fact that he's there. Not only that, the rampage that Skaar is going on is being followed by the Warbound, being led by Kate Winsborough. And so once they finally get there, Kate says, hey, look, I know I'm not necessarily of Skaar, but I do have the old power by way of Heroim. I understand what it is that you're going through. Because remember, when a person has the old power, they effectively have the legacy of the entire race. I mean, it's not like you simply just absorb the ability to manipulate tectonic plates. You absorb everything that is the history of the shadow culture. And so because of that, you basically know everything about them. You feel what they feel, you've seen what they've seen, and you've seen the history of Skaar through your own eyes and your own experiences. And so for Kate Winsborough, her having the old power allows her to understand the hatred that Skaar has right now, but to also understand where he's coming from in terms of his own experiences. Now, from here, she tries to appeal to him to basically say, hey, look, we've seen where you're coming from. We are the Warbound. We were the friends of the Incredible Hulk. We're your friends, ally yourself with us and we can show you the way. Now, initially it seems like Skaar is going to side with him, but what's really funny here is once they basically extend this olive branch, once Porg sits down and says, hey, I will help you find your father. I will help you find yourself. Skaar says, I'm not in this to try to find my dad. Like, I'm not in this to try to, mend the rift between the two of us. I'm in this because I want to find him and I want to kill him. And this is when the Incredible Hulk shows up. Now, to be honest with you guys, this is an ass whooping if there ever was one. This is one of the most amazing things because we sit down, right, and we look at Skaar, and Skaar is just like unbridled force. I mean, he's just rage personified. That's really what he is. He's your angsty teenager, angry at the world. The world didn't give him what he wanted one day, and so he's going to take it out on everybody. Everybody's going to feel his wrath. That's basically what he is. He's like the teenager that you say, okay, get over yourself, you'll be fine, move on, the sun will rise tomorrow. The Incredible Hulk is seasoned. I mean, he's a seasoned guy. He's had his ups and downs. He's fought gods, he's fought mortals. He's been the good guy, he's been the bad guy. Worldbreaker Hulk is the epitome of his absolute strength. And what Skaar is actually looking for is not just to fight his father, not just to fight the Incredible Hulk, but to fight Worldbreaker Hulk. Now, the reason why he wants to fight that version of the Hulk is because, as he tells Banner himself, growing up, that's all he ever heard from anybody who knew who the Hulk was. Even after the Incredible Hulk had basically taken off from Skaar, after the Crown City was destroyed, after his wife was killed and he believed his son had died, the rumors still spread across the planet of, the green Skaar, the Skaarson, this unbridled force in the history of Skaar that literally cast off the Red King, saved everybody on the planet, and was virtually unchallenged by anyone. No one could stand against the Incredible Hulk. These are the stories that Skaar heard. And so what happened is that over the course of his experiences, and while he's trying to fight the Incredible Hulk here, he's getting his ass whooped in no uncertain terms. And this is exactly how it needed to happen. This is exactly how it needed to unfold. Because Skaar's cool. I love the character of Skaar. Skaar fans, we're fanboy. We are of a like mind. Internet bro fist. Because I'm a PewDiePie fan, by the way, but internet fist bump. I like the character of Skaar. I love him for what he is because he's so cool. But he has nothing on the Incredible Hulk. I'm sorry I got to go old school here. When it comes to the Incredible Hulk, Papa Bear reigns supreme. Like, he knows you don't mess with the Hulk, man. And so the result of this is that once he's easily able to take his son out, once he's able to pummel him in the extreme, Skaar keeps coming back. But something else that I'd also like you to notice here is that the Incredible Hulk doesn't seem to know who the Warbound are. Now, the reason for this is because this is an instance of two different types of Incredible Hulks. When it came to Worldbreaker Hulk, that was in and of itself a singular transformation. I mean, that was the equivalent of the Incredible Hulk going Super Saiyan, for lack of a better word. That's essentially what that was. It was him taking on a whole new state of being. He had the intelligence, or not really the intelligence of Banner, but he had the wherewithal of a conscious being. He wasn't just savage and running amok, but he had strength that was hitherto unseen when it came to any version of the Incredible Hulk. But this is Savage Hulk in his true form. It's the simple-minded, easily confused, but wildly powerful Incredible Hulk. The funny thing about this is that, when he says, "Why do you want to fight me?" When he asks Skaar, "Why do you want to go against me?" Skaar says, "Because, all I ever heard was that you were a hero." But the question I have is, why would a hero let his son die? Why would a hero let his people suffer at the hands of Axeman Bone and his barbarous forces as they were trying to fill the power vacuum of Skaar? And why would he let the world die? The funny thing about this is that the Hulk responds by basically saying, "I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know anything about Skaar. I have no clue what it is that you're saying." And this is when the Warbound begin to realize that they're two distinctly different beings, because keep in mind, this is something to keep in mind, guys, the Warbound never saw Savage Hulk. They never saw that version of him. From the time that he first showed up on Skaar, all the way up until the time that he left, he was effectively Worldbreaker Hulk. He was the Hulk that showed up in World War Hulk, that iteration of him. He was intelligent, but he was wildly powerful. He was determined, and the reason for that was because he was just filled with anger at the fact that he was betrayed by the Illuminati. That was his singular goal, was to come back to Earth and kill the Illuminati for casting him out. It was only after Kyra died and, his family was effectively destroyed that he showed up and officially went into this kind of Worldbreaker Hulk form that was wildly powerful. But the Warbound have never seen Savage Hulk. And so for them to suddenly come across this version that's not very bright, but is incredibly strong, they're just kind of like, what in the heck? Because as far as they're concerned, it's like the Hulk's lost his mind. They have no idea what's going on with him. They're like, why don't you remember who we are? We literally fought in the gladiatorial games. And he's like, I don't remember what you're talking about. And they're like, okay, well, we came to Earth and we basically laid waste to the entirety of the superhero community, the X-Men, the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, like Doctor Strange, we took them all out. And he's like, nope, still have no idea what you're talking about. And he's just like, Hulk is Hulk. I don't know what you're talking about, but Hulk is Hulk. And so for him, for Savage Hulk, it's mind games. It's them trying to screw with his head. And so because of this, once he looks into his son's eyes, that's when it starts to snap back. Now, the cool thing about this bit of writing is that it draws on the history of the Incredible Hulk when it comes to his multiple personalities, because, the Gray Hulk originally was introduced as like a printing error. It was the fact that they just couldn't keep it going, so they eventually made him green. That was just the explanation. Well, we just can't keep it going, so we're making him green instead. It wasn't until years later that the Gray Hulk was his own persona. We have Joe Fixit-Holt as Gray Hulk, we have Professor Hulk, we have all these different versions of the Incredible Hulk. What's happening in this story is they're basically tapping in, and they're saying that when Bruce Banner, or I guess when the Incredible Hulk looked in the eyes of his son, he saw Kyra. He remembered her for a fraction of a second, but then suddenly those memories get shut out. Now, whether it's because they're too painful, whether it's because that personality is trying to surface and the Savage Hulk is keeping it back, that's something that's never really explained here. But what we're basically told is that Worldbreaker Hulk is a different iteration of the Hulk. It's not the same as Savage Hulk, the kind that we're traditionally used to seeing. And so because of that, initially he simply just tries to cast off Skaar and basically say, go away, I don't want to have anything to do with you. But Skaar's like, no, I came here for a fight, and a fight is what I'm gonna get. He tells the Incredible Hulk, he's like, either you can put up and we can fight, or you can walk away, but one way or the other, man, you are taking this ass whooping. And so because of that, with the conflict that they have going on, what's ironic is that they're right next to a nuclear power plant. And so when you're dealing with force of this magnitude, when you're dealing with the Incredible Hulk, who's powerful enough to punch the ground and create earthquakes, the most logical scenario happens here, in the sense that they basically just disrupt this nuclear power plant and they begin the process of sending it into meltdown. Now, where the Warbound and the Incredible Hulk step in and try to save this power plant, initially they're not really successful in doing that. But with Skaar, he has the old power. And this is basically Marvel saying the old power works regardless of what planet you're on. Sure, the old power originates with Skaar, but it's basically just the ability to manipulate tectonic plates. And if a planet exists, it has tectonic plates, meaning as long as you're standing on the ground, you can manipulate the tectonic plates of that planet and achieve virtually any goal. And that's exactly what Skaar does. He basically uses his old power to effectively seal off this nuclear power plant and basically save the lives of the people who were there, keep the whole thing from melting down. And so from here, of course, we have Kate Waynesboro, who asked a really funny question. She says, if you're able to use the old power and you can manipulate the very structure of the Earth itself, you could crack it in half if you wanted to, which kind of makes him the equivalent of an Omega level mutant, then why do you use a sword? And he says, it's easy, it's more fun. And then he plunges the sword into the chest of the Incredible Hulk. Like, how awesome is that? Now, the funny thing about this is that this is not going to kill the Incredible Hulk, not by a long shot. And Skaar knows this. Skaar knows it's not going to kill the Hulk. All he says here is, you are not the Hulk that I've been told about. You're not this Worldbreaker Hulk, this champion, this absolute power of physical strength, this being whose strength is virtually unrivaled with the exception of those who are cosmic entities and I guess the Sentry. He says, you are a shadow of your former self. So come find me when you become World Breaker Hulk again. Until then, leave me alone. Like, I don't want to have anything to do with this because you're literally just a weak and pathetic man. Now, in truth, if this fight had gone on long enough, Savage Hulk would have killed Skaar. I mean, that's just the way it is. There's no discussion to be had there. Like, Skaar would have been obliterated by Savage Hulk because Hulk would just keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Skaar does not have that ability. Skaar does not have infinite strength. The Incredible Hulk does. And so ultimately it would just lead to, Skaar being killed. Either that or Skaar would simply just rip the planet in half and kill himself and Hulk at the same time. Kind of look at it like a no-win situation and say, well, fine, if I can't win, then everyone's gonna lose and literally just kill everybody. But that pretty much wraps things up because what this does is this wraps back around, I guess it kind of moves forward into the video that we talked about yesterday with Red Hulk versus Spider-Man. And then it allows us to pick back up with Skaar going against the son of Wolverine and Wolverine himself and Juggernaut, all the while more or less being tutored by Bruce Banner, who of course has been depowered at this point. Again, if you guys were a little fuzzy on that, make sure you check playlist down in the description. That playlist will get you caught up on where we're at, everything from Planet Hulk up until right now. And again, I'm just going through and putting things in chronological order. So for the most part, it should just be one new video at the bottom of the playlist all the time, but it may be that with something like this, I kind of have to jump back and inject a little bit of info and modify its placement in the playlist. But in any event, if you guys are new here to Comics Explained and you guys enjoy this video, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Core. We are getting rings soon. Don't worry. And hopefully soon anyway. And leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about the Incredible Hulk videos so far, because you guys really seem to like them and I love doing them. Like, Incredible Hulk is amazing. Like, I always felt like the Hulk never got enough respect when it came to comics, and his stories are pretty solid sometimes. But anyway, guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up, and yeah, I will catch you all later. Peace.